Hello, everyone. This is Robert Newkirk, and I'd like to welcome you to our YouTube channel entitled Budgeting in Three Dimensions. As I said before, budgeting in three dimensions is a philosophy. Budgeting in three dimensions is a mindset. Budgeting in three dimensions is a new technique that will allow you the opportunity to become successful in your money management endeavors. Now, to tell a little bit about myself, I'm a graduate from MIT. I majored in astronautical engineering, and got to work at General Electric Aircraft Engines during the Jack Welch CEO tenure, which actually my time started right around the crash of 1987. But I wasn't savvy in investment at that time. They told me, would I like to have some stock in the company? And I agreed. But when I left the company and went active duty Air Force, I ended up selling my shares. Now realizing that history was going to continue and that it was going to split 9 times in the process. So I had to become knowledgeable in investing. And thanks to a mentor that I had in the Air Force, I was able to do that. Now, we're going to have some podcasts here that are going to have some financial experts come on and tell you a little bit about what they know in terms of finance and investing. But the following podcast that's coming is a snippet of an interview that I did with Reverend Maxwell. Melvin Maxwell was my business partner for 10 years. He was also a brother of mine for 25 years. And he was self-made, and you know what I mean by self-made, by the age of 31. So he comes in and talks about commerce opportunities overseas, talks about budgeting versus gambling, and circumstances there where he was taught to budget as a kid, and how he taught his kids about budgeting. So stay tuned and get some golden nuggets from Reverend Maxwell as he gives you his version of budgeting in three dimensions. Hello, everyone. This is Robert Newkirk coming to you live with another segment of Budgeting in Three Dimensions. And I am so happy to have with me as my special guest for today, all the way from Luanda, Angola, that's in the western part of Africa. We're talking to Reverend Melvin Maxwell. He is the pastor of East Friendship Baptist Church in Washington, D.C., but he has a plethora of field that's attached to his name. He's all, in addition to being a pastor, he was formerly a contracting officer for the United States Air Force, and he was also industrial engineer. And some of the work that he's doing as far as industrial engineer has taken him to Angola. But he has a few minutes of his time that he's going to spend with us. So Reverend Maxwell, it's so good to have you on the show today.
How you doing, Robert? So glad to be here with you, my brother. All the way from Luanda, Angola. You got it right.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So I wanted to go ahead and talk, since you have such a high discipline between being a pastor, being an entrepreneur, being a contracting officer for the government, and expert in the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, yes, as well as an engineer. I wanted to talk about, when we go into talking about budgeting and just getting the overview of the global look of things, working overseas in Africa, what do you see as the major disparity of wealth between those that live in Africa, those that live in Europe, and those that live in the United States?
Well, we know historically, the Africans throughout the entire continent, there's 54 nations and have been oppressed for 400 years. And that oppression mean they didn't have the capacity to control their own financing and wealth. Even to the day in 2021, We know that France receives $500 billion from Africa a year, even when they decided that they were going to take cryptocurrency or Echo coin and create it for all the Franco nations. Frank put a warship outside of Cameroon and said, don't do that, because the implications of you changing the finances and the use of French currency, it would bankrupt France. And so there's so much money going out of Africa to deal with colonialist debt that was created while we were being oppressed as Africans. And so, it's too much of that going on. And now we see a movement toward Africans taking control over their own central banks, which is slowly happening, and get control over their national budgets. But a great deal of their national budgets goes to Europe, and then Europe dispenses their money to them, if you can believe that.
That's unbelievable. Well, in looking at that and seeing that there's this switch that's going on, and being that you're currently involved in commerce business over there in Africa, as far as people in the U.S., how can we possibly get involved investing in future businesses that will benefit the Africans and indigenous that are overseas?
Yeah, well, right now, it's actually January of this year, the Intercontinental Trade Agreement is the largest trade agreement in the history of humanity. It's about $2.6 trillion, where all the African nations are now going to be trading within themselves for the first time. And that's creating a plethora of opportunities for businesses in America, young and old brothers and sisters that are interested in investing, because now you have opportunity to do business with 1.4 billion customers on a continent, and you're able to grow a business at a rapid speed. And so it's the opportunity of a lifetime. That's one of the reasons why we're here.
So I heard you say opportunities to invest. So that means that in order to invest, we need to have the discipline to create a pot of money so that we can invest. Right. So now we need to back it up, because now we're talking about individuals learning to budget and discipline, and going to have the opportunity to pursue wealth. So I'd like to ask you, what is your key motivator that drove you to excel in the pursuit of wealth?
I mean, you right on. I had a mother who taught budgeting to us as children. Although she was, my dad left when we were 6 years old, so she was raising 6 children, and she was on social service. She taught us how to budget everything, to be frugal, how to set up our food. She showed us what she was faced with as kids. And so we would walk through the monthly budget as a family, and our older brothers would go find and work. I started working in my own newspaper business when I was 7 years old. And it grew by the time I was 10, where I was servicing the whole projects, which included about 700 clients as a young man, as a young age. And I had lots of young kids working with their carts, delivering newspapers, the Sunday paper especially. So that came from my mother. She's frugal. In fact, when I saved enough money to buy her a house, to move her, all I had to do was pull the plug out of the telephone and move. She didn't have no debt. She had more money than all those who had jobs. She was my first investor into my business. And so she took a little and made much with it through budgeting and saving. And I learned some of those precepts from her.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And okay, so if that's the case, if you learned that base from your mother, one I want to ask is, what kind of the best decisions that you made personally that helped you define, particularly going through your military career and then on into your military, into your clergy, and then becoming an entrepreneur?
I think, and that goes back to my childhood. I made a decision early that I was going to be an entrepreneur, that I saw the only way out of poverty in the projects, and also being able to assist my mother, is going to be with businesses. So I started them at a young age. By the time I was 16 years old, I was working on Wall Street and doing banking with Chase Manhattan Bank and being mentored by vice president of control at Chase Manhattan Bank. And so I had, and I went to Murray Bertram High School for Business Careers, right there close to downtown Wall Street. So I had a whole business formation from my mother to, working in youth corps and working in jobs that were relevant to business, learning business law as a young age, and learning about investments and leveraging money, taking a little and making much with it. And so I was buying stocks before I was 15 years old.
Or you 15. It took me to the age of 24 before I realized I needed to dig in for a minute on that one. You brought out a whole lot of major points, particularly in the fact that you were disciplined to start early in your investing, which I know is a major advantage. But now that you're a pastor in the church, you have started several programs within the church that stress the importance of budgeting and managing your finances. Why do you think that's important to do with your church congregation?
Well, one of the things, Robert, where our church is in Northeast DC, we have about a 78% rate of single parenthood, woman-headed households. So I grew up with a mother in a single family household. So I wanted to put in place some life skill training systems, and finances is one of the critical areas to help a person come out of poverty. And so we created, we went connected with Dave Ramsey, who does a Christian-based budgeting process and financial program. And so we did that for a whole 2 years with a number of families. And we moved people from welfare to entrepreneurship to budgeting and transformed a lot of families' life. Every year we created 23 businesses in our church. 23 is my birthday, 23rd. It's also Michael Jordan's number. And so we created 23 businesses every year. For every year I was there, we created 23 businesses and helped them, nourish them, and get them to a place to be independent. And we did a lot of things. I did a whole thing on cryptocurrency. When Bitcoin was $7.67, I spent a year teaching on cryptocurrency. And only a few people took me up on it, because I said, you can raise between your family $20,000 or $30,000, buy it now. And then it went up to $25,000. Our martial arts teacher, him and his wife invested even more than that. And they're rich to this day. They are part of the ones who put in the Bitcoins machines in all the gas stations in the DMV, Virginia, Maryland, DC area. And they're extremely wealthy because they made the decision to invest while Bitcoin was at $8 and $7.97. So it's a variety. So every year we do financial small groups. So we got small groups for debt, budgeting, and a variety of small groups, probably about 10 different ones related to financing and budgeting.
Okay. And just for the record, I checked it out last night, and Bitcoin is now up to $57,000 a share. So, yeah.
If someone brought $30,000 of Bitcoin when I told them, they would have been worth $38 million.
That's about right. That's about right now. That's unbelievable. So let me ask you. Let's take it now. We talked about the things that you're doing in the church. I actually want to kind of go back to your own family. How did you manage your finances over the course of the growth of your family, and particularly dealing with you have a son and 2 daughters, and
yes.
And then let me know what's your philosophy for creating generational wealth.
Yeah, well, I from the time they was born, one of the things that we did with our kids in our basement, we created centers of experiences for playing. So they had a corner that was their school. They had a corner that was their bank, a corner that was a grocery store, and a corner that was an investment center. And they played. We gave them tools as babies as they grew up, and understand how to someone comes to your store, how to exchange money, and learning mathematics, because the basis of finance is math. And a lot of kids turn their nose up against math. But I think math is being at the center. If we really, fall in love with it, then we have a respect for money. And that's what people lack. They lack a respect for money. So I taught my kids the principle that $1 equals $100. When you see a dollar, you're really seeing $100 if you understand and you value and you respect money. Currency, that it flows and it moves, and you want to get it money flowing towards you, and teaching them small principles like this and creating businesses. So all my children, from the time they were 5 up to today, had their own business. You know, Michaela had a business on making little cute bracelets for all her friends and all the whole neighborhood after a while. And Mariah had a lemonade stand, and she had some what she called doll baby hair doing. Maurice had business in looking at sneakers and improving people's sneakers, and dressing up and doing his artwork and selling his art. But all of them, even to this day, had their own companies and corporations. Even right now, my daughter Michaela is, building a hotel in Colombia.
Mm. Okay, you mean Colombia is in South America, Colombia?
South America, Colombia.
Okay, that Colombia. Okay, we ain't talking about
With
Columbia, Maryland. We're talking about Colombia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hampton University group that she's part of, the financial group. So you see these young people doing major things that we even didn't think of. So they all invested. She just took some of my money and went over there, and she's really doing a great job with a hotel that they built in Colombia.
Okay, and the key word was your money.
Yeah, it was my money at that time. But Daddy, I need a little paper.
Right,
I want to be a great partner in that. So all that started young, and I taught my kids tithing is important. So they had 3 jars on their dresser, and it was, give God his 10%, give yourself 10% that you're saving, and then work with the others. And so we broke down jars, and they did it diligently. I remember a story when Mariah went away to Italy, and she forgot to put her money in the jar. It was under the bed, and my wife found the money. My wife was like, Mariah, you left your money to go to Italy. She said, no, that's God's money. Put it back in jar number 2. So here she is, now in college, and she still has the same principle. Put it back in jar number 2. When I get back, I'll bring it to church. So she respects money, and she respects giving a portion to God, because God promises to, give you 1,000-fold back. And he's proven right. He has done that for all of them.
Okay. All right. Well, I like where this conversation is going. So we're going to come into the next segment. We're going to go into a little bit deeper, because you started to open this door about this thing called budgeting, and the use of the jar, so that no matter what age you are, you need to start this process and become this discipline. So in the next segment, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that. And be sure to continue as we continue with our series, Budgeting in 3 Dimensions. This is Robert Newkirk, and I would like to thank you for tuning in to our YouTube channel. I certainly hope you were able to absorb some valuable golden nuggets while you were watching our videos. If you appreciate what we have to offer and have the cravings for more, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Also like and comment on our channel as you see fit, and stay tuned for more videos and updates as they come along. And also be sure to visit our website, robertfnewkirk.com. Thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.